Do you remember The Matrix for its iconic slow-motion shots? The film triggered a cinematic revolution, but in real life, many of its stars couldn't save themselves. From terminal illnesses, depression, and near-fatal accidents, to performers who were brutally blacklisted by Hollywood, their journeys will leave you stunned. 26 years later, their lives have changed in ways you would never believe. Keanu Reeves as Neo. Keanu Charles Reeves was born on September 2, 1964, in Beirut, Lebanon, raised amid instability. At 34 years old, he became Neo, the chosen one of The Matrix, 1999, the soul of humanity's rebellion against the machines. But this iconic role arrived at the darkest point of his life. While the world was celebrating him, Keanu was enduring the most devastating pain a father can experience. His infant daughter with Jennifer Syme died before she ever opened her eyes to the world. The loss shattered him, a man already scarred by an abandoned childhood, and dragged him into a deep depression. And just as he tried to gather the strength to rise again, fate struck him a second time. 2 years later, Jennifer, the woman he loved, died in a horrific car crash. Keanu carried her casket in silence, then disappeared from Hollywood, wandering through grief like a man without a home. He eventually returned with John Wick, Constantine, Bill, and Ted, and rebuilt his life through work and the choreography of punches, bullets, and redemption. But his solitude, that extreme emotional closed-offness, revealed the portrait of a man who has survived every heartbreak alone. In 2025, Keanu Reeves is 61, still acting, living simply with Alexandra Grant, and riding motorcycles like a traveler with no final destination. And in the midst of so much loss, his estimated net worth of around $380 million is not what defines him. It's his resilience, his kindness, and the quiet, beautiful sorrow that made him into a Hollywood icon no one can replicate. Gloria Foster, as the Oracle. Gloria Foster was born on November 15, 1933, in Chicago, Illinois. At 65 years old, she became the Oracle, the spiritual mother of The Matrix, 1999, with eyes gentle enough to soothe a collapsing world. But behind that warm presence was a life filled with unending hardship. Throughout the 1960s to 80s, Hollywood repeatedly slammed its doors in her face simply because she was a black woman. She was rejected, underestimated, and denied roles her talent deserved. Even after winning 3 prestigious Obie Awards, she still had to fight every day for small roles in an industry that never wanted to make room for someone like her. During her marriage to Clarence Williams III, her worsening diabetes drained her strength and tested their relationship constantly. While filming The Matrix Reloaded, her illness escalated. In her final days, even when the pain made it difficult for her to stand, she insisted on finishing her scenes, smiling gently so no one would worry. On September 29, 2001, Gloria Foster passed away at age 67 due to complications from diabetes, leaving behind an irreplaceable void in the very universe she had helped shape. And though her net worth at the time was under $1 million, her legacy, her Obie Awards, the Oracle's warm eyes, and her unwavering dignity in the face of injustice remains richer than any blockbuster. Laurence Fishburne as Morpheus. Laurence John Fishburne III was born on July 30, 1961, in Augusta, Georgia. By 1999, at 37 years old, he stepped into the role of Morpheus, the mentor, the leader, the guiding soul for Neo in The Matrix, a performance that etched into global memory the image of a black man whose philosophy and conviction were stronger than any bullet. But in real life, Laurence was fighting wounds that never fully healed. His 16-year marriage to Gina Torres, once a source of stability, quietly fractured, and in 2018 they officially divorced, leaving a painful void in the life of a man who had always longed for steadiness. But the true shock came in 2010, when his daughter, Montana Fishburne, suddenly entered the adult film industry. The scandal exploded across Hollywood, plunging Laurence into humiliation, heartbreak, and the profound helplessness of a father unable to save his child from self-destruction. During this turmoil, he still had to stand in front of cameras for Hannibal and John Wick, hiding all the pain behind bright studio lights. Alongside family tragedy, Laurence also endured a deep professional blow when he was excluded from The Matrix Resurrections. The official announcement blamed scheduling issues, but rumors of disagreements with Lana Wachowski spread widely, leaving him on the outside of the very universe he helped build. Even so, he continued proving his strength with powerful roles in Ant-Man and the Wasp, John Wick 2-4, and a return to the stage, culminating in a Tony Award in 2022 that reaffirmed his enduring greatness. By 2025, Laurence Fishburne is 64, still living and working in Hollywood with the calm of a man who has survived enough loss and bruises to understand the true value of peace. He continues to act, produce, and stand firm against every wave of public scrutiny. His net worth in 2025 is estimated at around $20 million. Hugo Weaving as Agent Smith. Hugo Wallace. Weaving was born on April 4, 1960, in Ibadan, Nigeria. In 1999, at 38 years old, he became Agent Smith, the coldest face of the Matrix, the relentless enemy, the embodiment of control and obsession. It was a role that shook his entire career, but behind those black sunglasses was a life even messier than any digital universe. He turned down a long list of massive commercial offers worth tens of millions, from Transformers sequels to multiple Marvel returns, simply because he didn't want to become a machine repeating meaningless things. Hollywood called him difficult, but audiences saw him as a symbol of artistic integrity. That same stubbornness led him to refuse returning for The Matrix Resurrections, despite fans' pleas. He chose the British stage, where he was performing at the time, over reprising Agent Smith. While roles like Elrond in The Lord of the Rings, V and V for Vendetta, and Red Skull in Captain America turned him into a legend, he continued living modestly in Sydney with his partner Katrina Greenwood, raising their 2 children under her surname to protest patriarchal norms, a decision that stunned Hollywood. His seizures stopped in his early 30s, but Hugo remains cautious, slow-living, and far from the glare of the spotlight he considers artificial. In 2025, Hugo Weaving is 65, still performing on stage, appearing on television, and choosing only projects he truly loves. He has never chased money, which is why his net worth in 2025 is only around $30 million, despite his legendary career. Carrie-Anne Moss as Trinity. Carrie-Anne Moss was born on August 21, 1967, in Burnaby, British Columbia. At 31 years old, she became Trinity, the fierce, cool, explosive woman of The Matrix, 1999, the symbol of liberation and of love in a suffocating world of darkness. But behind the wall runs and the spinning kicks that amazed the world was a completely different life. After The Matrix, Hollywood didn't see Carrie-Anne Moss. They only saw Trinity. She was boxed into the warrior woman archetype, rejected from countless roles because she no longer fit anything outside the action aura stamped onto her like a scar. Her career, once blazing thanks to Memento and Red Planet, suddenly slowed to a suffocating crawl. When she became pregnant with her first child, then her second and third in quick succession, the pressure of motherhood and a stalled career pushed her to step away. Between 2007 and 2015, Carrie-Anne practically vanished from the screen, existing as nothing more than the shadow of Trinity. A shadow she felt both grateful for and burdened by. The loneliness grew sharper as she watched her contemporaries rise while she was viewed as a woman who had already fulfilled her purpose and should fade into the background. Even when she returned as the complex, sharp-edged Jerry Hogarth in Jessica Jones, Carrie-Anne still had to fight the feeling of being forgotten by Hollywood. She later admitted that she had been rejected so many times, she truly believed her career was over. After 3 children, her body struggled with physical demands, and although her presence remained striking, exhaustion carved itself into her face every time the cameras stopped. In 2025, Carrie-Anne Moss is 58, living peacefully with her husband and 3 children in New Hampshire, practicing meditation and running Annapurna Living, a project she founded to heal from the emotional erosion of the industry. She still acts in select projects and cherishes the opportunity to return in The Matrix Resurrections. In that quiet life, her estimated net worth of about $4 million stands as proof of a woman who has endured enough pain to know that peace is the most valuable thing of all. Joe Pantoliano as Cypher. Joseph Peter Pantoliano was born on September 12, 1951, in Hoboken, New Jersey. In 1999, at 47 years old, he took on the role of Cypher, the coldest traitor in the Matrix, the man willing to sell out his team for the illusion of a perfect life. Audiences hated Cypher, but Joe Pantoliano's real life carried even darker shadows than the character he played. For decades, Joe lived in a spiral of depression, alcoholism, opioids, painkillers, and a quiet self-destruction no one saw. He once admitted that there were days he woke up already wishing he could disappear. Even when he won an Emmy for The Sopranos, he still battled addiction and the distorted inner voice telling him he was not good enough, not worthy. Scandals surrounding his mental health and erratic behavior sent his career crashing multiple times. And when Hollywood looked at him and saw Cypher, the betrayer, Joe felt even more isolated in the profession he had devoted his life to. The pain didn't stop there. In 2020, Joe was struck by a truck while walking near his home. The impact caused a severe head injury, a fractured skull, and chest trauma. In that split moment between life and death, he said the only thing he saw was his family, the people who had watched him struggle with addiction, despair, and collapse for decades. From that brutal moment, he decided to tell his story through memoirs and founded the organization No Kidding Me Too, to help others with mental illness avoid the darkness he once lived in. By 2025, Joe Pantoliano is 74, still acting, delivering standout performances in The Last of Us, and earning another Emmy nomination, a late-blooming rebirth for a soul once shattered. He lives quietly with his wife and 4 children in Connecticut, trying to use his own pain to help others heal. His net worth is around $10 million. Marcus Chong as Tank. Marcus Chong was born on July 8, 1967, in Seattle, Washington. In 1999, at 31 years old, he became Tank, the operations controller of the Nebuchadnezzar, the technical heart and steady pulse of the crew in The Matrix. But behind his radiant backstage smile was a harsh twist of fate. Right after the success of The Matrix, Marcus believed his future was finally opening up. But when Warner Brothers offered him a salary far lower than he expected for parts 2 and 3, he pushed back. Too forcefully, in a way Hollywood never forgives. Heated calls, arguments, demands for clearer contracts soon labeled Marcus as difficult. And when he sued the studio for $5 million, every door slammed shut at once. He lost the role. And even worse, he lost faith in the industry he once believed was home. That sense of betrayal stayed with Marcus for years. He insisted he had been blacklisted, and in interviews he later claimed that Hollywood had stamped him with the label dangerous. Minor roles in Law and Order, Burn Notice, and small, quiet indie films, no posters, no red carpets, only deepened the loneliness. His final notable role was a 2018 indie project, far too small to revive a career once expected to soar after The Matrix. Everything about Tank remained in 1999, while Marcus carried that sadness for 2 decades. In 2025, Marcus Chong is 58, living quietly, spending most of his time in small theater productions and telling his life story through self-made videos and documentaries, determined that people do not forget he once existed at the heart of The Matrix. His net worth is about $2 million. Belinda McClory as Switch. Belinda McClory was born in 1968 in Adelaide, South Australia. At 30 years old, she played Switch, the icy, white-haired warrior who was originally meant to embody one of the boldest transgender storylines in The Matrix, 1999, before the studio forced a last-minute rewrite. That silent sacrifice created a powerful symbolic character, but it also marked the beginning of the lasting losses Belinda carried throughout her career. When the script was altered, Switch lost the identity the Wachowskis had envisioned, and Belinda became the only person burdened by the weight of two conflicting versions of the same character. The safe, sanitized Switch, Hollywood demanded, and the Switch she felt was never allowed to truly exist. After The Matrix, the role didn't open the doors to Hollywood. It only opened endless interviews about what didn't make it to the screen. Belinda lived with a quiet ache. She had performed a character that could have made history, yet she was denied the chance to shine the way she deserved. As her co-stars became global icons, Belinda returned to Australian theatre, where she fought the constant feeling of being forgotten. She became an acclaimed stage actress, winning the prestigious Helpman Award, and later pivoted to screenwriting to reclaim the artistic voice Hollywood never gave her. In 2025, Belinda McClory is 57, still deeply dedicated to the stage, writing scripts, appearing in independent films, and giving Australian art her breath and passion. She lives a private life with her husband, John Hewitt, who has always supported her as she worked to overcome the suffocating shadow Hollywood left behind. Her net worth is estimated at around $2 million. Anthony Ray Parker as Dozer. Anthony Ray Parker was born on May 13, 1958, in Saginaw, Michigan. In 1999, at 40 years old, he played Dozer, the powerful big brother, the physical backbone of the Nebuchadnezzar in The Matrix. The role brought him into Hollywood's spotlight, but his real life descended into a darkness no machine or battlefield could ever compare to. After leaving The Matrix, Anthony's career briefly shone in Spartacus and the Marine, but the real turmoil came not from work, but from his own family. Between 2013 and 2014, New Zealand was shaken by the roast, father wanting to protect his child, while the other was a man crushed under the weight of a crime he hadn't committed, yet was forced to absorb the public hatred for. He admitted that during that time his family was on the verge of breaking. Public pressure, non-stop phone calls, reporters camping outside the house, threats pouring in. All of it pushed him to psychological collapse, not because of a failing career, but because he watched his son being swallowed alive by a scandal beyond saving. The pain forced him to retreat from the spotlight, taking only occasional small roles and focusing instead on anti-suicide advocacy. In 2025, Anthony Ray Parker is 67, living quietly in Los Angeles, spending time with his family and working with community programs, choosing a life far from the noise after too many blows from fate. His net worth is estimated at around $2 million, enough for a peaceful life and enough to keep him standing after storms no amount of fame could shield him from. Julian Arahanga as APOC. Julian Arahanga was born on December 18, 1972, in Raiatihi, Manawatu, Wanganui. At just 26 years old, he became APOC, the calm, commanding navigator of The Matrix in 1999. It was the role that tied his name to Hollywood, but his real life afterward veered into a painful journey that nearly cost him his life. Years after The Matrix ended, Julian was suddenly struck by a severe flare of Crohn's disease. In 2012, a prolonged abdominal crisis led to a ruptured intestine, a medical emergency that caused him to collapse at home. Doctors said he had only minutes to live before sepsis would have taken him. Part of his intestine had to be removed, leaving his body drained and his mind haunted by the fear of death for months. For an actor, standing in front of a camera is already demanding. But for someone who has undergone intestinal resection, every step, every breath after surgery is a battle. His career was forced to pause, and Hollywood, well, as always, didn't wait for anyone. Paul Goddard as Agent Brown. Paul Goddard was born in 1963 in Reading, England. At 35 years old, he played Agent Brown, the cold, razor-sharp enforcer, one of the 3 relentless hunter programs in The Matrix in 1999. It was a short role, but an unforgettable one, imprinting the image of a powerful villain in the chaos of the digital world. But after The Matrix shook Hollywood, Paul Goddard took a path few expected. He didn't chase fame, didn't push into the crowded lanes of major projects. Instead, he stepped away from American sets and returned to Australia. Work followed, but mostly small roles, fleeting characters in Farscape, The Lost World, and dozens of Australian series. For an actor trained at the prestigious NIDA, being confined to supporting parts often left him wondering what he had lost along the way. In the years that followed, he shifted toward teaching acting and working as a communication coach, helping others stand confidently in front of the camera, all while feeling that he himself belonged in bigger roles. The sense of being overlooked, washed out among hundreds of rising TV faces, pushed Paul through a difficult mental period. Still, he chose to remain behind the scenes, quietly passing his passion on to younger generations. In 2025, Paul Goddard is 62, living peacefully in Australia, balancing occasional acting work, teaching, and communication consulting. His net worth is estimated at about $1 million, a modest figure, but the portrait of a steady, scandal-free career built on commitment to the craft. Rowan Witt as Spoon Boy. Rowan Witt was born in 1988 in Australia. In 1999, at just 10 years old, he became the Spoon Boy. The bald child monk whose line, "There is no spoon," became one of the most iconic moments in The Matrix. It was only a brief scene set in a meditative space, but that image permanently tied Rowan's name to one of cinema's most unforgettable quotes. Yet after that early flash of fame, Rowan's life did not unfold like a fairy tale. While many child actors were pushed into bigger roles, he found himself trapped inside a whirlwind of expectations, the pressure to grow up exactly as a destined talent. Family hoped, audiences expected, but the older Rowan got, the more he realized he couldn't reach the opportunities that early fame had once seemed to promise. Small roles in Home and Away faded, auditions failed, and his teenage years were marked by an aching sense of inadequacy. The constant question of whether he had been nothing more than a fleeting face. That tension followed him into adulthood. In his 20s, Rowan stood at a painful crossroads: keep chasing the industry or step away to protect his mental health. Whenever he landed roles in Into the Woods, Dogfight, or The Book of Mormon, he fought hard to reclaim the light. But the more he tried, the more pressure he felt, especially when audiences remembered only the spoon-bending kid from years ago. Eventually, Rowan quietly stepped away from the screen and moved into backstage work. In 2025, Rowan Witt is 37, living a private life and working behind the scenes, supporting productions and coaching vocals for stage projects in Sydney. His net worth is estimated at about $2 million, largely from theater, teaching, and residuals from earlier TV work. Robert Taylor as Agent Jones. Robert John Taylor was born in 1963 in Melbourne, Australia. In 1999, at age 36, he became Agent Jones, the cold, ruthless operative who shadowed Agent Smith throughout The Matrix. The short but striking role opened a door for him, pushing him from Australian television into Hollywood. But life after the flash of Hollywood was far from easy. The relentless pressure of inconsistent roles, demanding filming schedules, and years spent proving he was more than just another agent placed heavy strain on his marriage. For extended periods, he had to leave his wife and daughter for months at a time while jumping between work in the UK, the US, and Australia. A lifestyle stable enough to survive, but never stable enough to breathe. During those years, Robert battled emotional exhaustion, struggling with the sting of watching peers rise while he remained stuck in supporting roles. Work continued, but the emotional toll lingered beneath the surface. Robert once admitted that after The Matrix he felt swallowed by control, forcing himself to act strong even as he battled fatigue and self-doubt internally. A serious, near-fatal boat accident, which left him with broken ribs and a fractured arm, caused years of chronic pain and further affected his mental and physical endurance. That fragility made him cherish the role of Walt Longmire even more, seeing it as a final chance to stand tall in front of the camera. In 2025, Robert Taylor is 62, living peacefully with his wife, producer Aisha Davies, and their daughter Scarlett. He continues acting in projects like Territory and NCIS, Origins. His net worth is approximately $6 million, the result of perseverance, survival, and never letting hardship break him. In the end, The Matrix didn't just change cinema. It left behind scars, losses, and miracles that only those who lived it can truly understand. After 26 years, which story surprised you the most? Share your thoughts below. And if you want to keep uncovering the truth behind Hollywood legends, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story.